We are very fortunate to have Mr. Dayanidhi Joshi ji, who is Deputy Secretary in the Ministry of Commerce and Industry in the DPIIT Department of Industry and Internal Trade. He joins us in on behalf of Shri Anil Agarwal, Joint Secretary DPIIT, to address us on the leather and footwear industry webinar, followed by which we would hand over the floor to our moderator, Shri Gautam Nair ji from the Leather Committee of CII. So, Dayanidhi Joshi ji, may I please invite you to address the floor? Thank you.
Good afternoon to all secretaries present in this webinar. I am Dayanidhi Joshi, Deputy Secretary in DPIIT. Recently, I have got promoted as a Deputy Secretary. Earlier, I was looking after the leather and footwear division in this department since more than 2 years, and I have handled the leather section in this department for more than 2 years. So I have a good experience of working in leather and footwear, and many of the participants know me. The leather and footwear accessories sector is associated with high growth and employment potential with the presence of entire value chain in India. However, sector attracts negligible FDI and has a challenge of limited capacities and capital investment. Since the sector is dominated by small and unorganized industries, which are mostly in MSME sector, it needs the special impetus to increase production and productivity. So the central government has approved the special features for employment generation in leather and footwear sector with technology upgradation and environmental issues in 2017-15 December. This scheme was implemented for 3 years, which is from 2017-18 to 19-20, and which is extended by 1 more year, the term of which is presently up to 31st March 2021. And we are already working on a new scheme from the next financial year for a period of 4 years. And various stakeholder consultation have been held with these dignitaries. And based on their suggestions, we are, this department is moving the proposal for a new scheme, which will cover, in addition to the existing schemes, design and innovation, setting up design and innovation studio, and the problems which the industry was facing in IDLS, like employment generation, etc., they have been taken care of, and they most likely we will amend them accordingly. And for the last 1 year, since this pandemic came, a lot of activities have been held in leather and footwear sector in DPIIT. First of all, a development council for footwear and leather industry was set up on 11 September 20 to overall development of leather and footwear sector. And the sector was the section, leather section, which was earlier leather section. The footwear part of this act, which was under other section, was moved to leather and footwear this section, and now it has been renamed as leather and footwear sector, so that overall growth of this sector can be taken care. And another issue was quality control orders. Since there was no quality control order in DPIIT, a lot of cheap import from China was happening. So, as per a discussion held with industry, we have issued 3 quality control orders, which will be implemented from 1st July 2021. And we are getting inputs from industry for amendments in this. So we are taking care of that. And this department would welcome the steps taken out, the steps being suggested by the various stakeholders from this webinar in a positive manner, and we will consider them in a positive way. So I will not take much time, and I will now request Gautam Nair sir to take the discussions further. Thank you.
Joshi, thank you for your very focused and crisp comments on the industry. Obviously, you've got a lot of experience in our industry, and we are grateful to you for even being present here today. And we hope you will continue to guide this industry in these difficult, challenging, but also times ahead, but also times with great opportunity for the Indian leather and footwear industry. As Mr. Chattopadhyay mentioned, we are focusing our discussion today in the context of quality and productivity. There are many, many issues of relevance in our industry which we may not be able to touch upon because our focus will be on these two issues of quality and productivity. And I think we will all agree, and I think we will have a much better understanding at the end of this talk, that these two areas are very vital to the success of any industry, whether it is domestically focused or whether it is export focused. And of course, our leather and footwear industry in India is both domestic and export focused. It is my pleasure to introduce the esteemed members of our panel today. We have a really high-powered panel from experts from all over India. And Mr. Mohan has joined us today from London, and we're very grateful that he has done that. But let me just go over the names of each of the panelists in no particular order except the order in which it is supplied to me, and then request each panelist to introduce himself very briefly so that we can commence our discussion. Our panelists today are Mr. Mutharul Amin, Mr. N. Mohan, Mr. Suresh Kumar Podar, Mr. S.P. Yadav, Mr. K.J. Sriram, Mr. Javed Iqbal, and Mr. Puran Davar. Each an expert and a specialist in his own right, and we look forward to hearing very briefly from each of them on the highlights of what they are doing. First, may I invite Mr. Mukhtarul Amin to introduce himself. Amin sir.
Yeah, super afternoon to everybody. I'm the chairman of Superhouse Limited, and I'm also heading Kanpur Unnao Leather Cluster Company Limited, which is an industry body and involved in research and development, testing, and skill development. Today, the subject what we are going to discuss, productivity and the quality, is definitely the most important thing for any industry. But unfortunately, our industry is lacking a lot on both of these. Our industry, 95% is from MSME, and most of they are from even the cottage industry also. We have a low wages, but our labor cost is high. Many countries, there are many countries.
Sorry to butt in. The way we've structured it is just a brief introduction on yourself, and then there are specific questions which I'll be directing to you and to the
I'm sorry.
Thank you for the introduction. We'll come back to you in a minute. Yeah. But may I ask, our second panelist is Mr. N. Mohan. Mr. Mohan, if you will just briefly introduce yourself, and then we'll come back to you with the specific questions.
Thank you, Mr. Nair, and thank you, Mr. D.N. Joshi, for excellent introductions. And I'm N. Mohan, Dr. N. Mohan, and I had worked about three and a half decades in export industry, predominantly exporting products from India. And then for the past 3 years, I've been associated with the Indian domestic market and leading Clarks as an MD and CEO for the last 1 year. So, this is a very, very apt discussion today, what we are going to discuss, because we need to kind of enhance the image of the country. How do you enhance the image of the country is enhancing the quality of products, quality in everything what we do. Not only the quality of products, quality of services, the complete this thing. I really look forward to participate in this discussion. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Nair, and thank you, Mr. Joshi.
Thank you, Mr. Mohan. I invite Mr. Suresh Kumar Podar to briefly introduce himself. Is Mr. Podar with us right now? Mr. Charubadia, any confirmation from Mr. Podar?
Join us briefly. We don't see him online right now. We could probably move to the next speaker and then come on.
Okay. May I request everybody to mute their mics, please? Otherwise, there's a lot of echo. May I invite Mr. S.P. Yadav to briefly introduce himself? Mr. S.P. Yadav. Mr. KJ Sriram, if you will be so kind, I can see you on board.
Good afternoon to everyone here. Thanks to QCI for this invite. I am Sriram, the director of the CSIR Central Leather Research Institute. As most of you in the leather and footwear know, we are a part of the Ministry of Science and Technology, Government of India. And we also happen to be one of the largest research centers in leather and allied products in this country. And we also have an NABL and SATRA accredited test facility, which many of the industry is using on a routine basis. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sriram. I see that Mr. Podar has joined us. Mr. S.K. Podar, if you'll be so kind as to very briefly introduce yourself. Mr. Podar, you need to unmute your mic, please. Mr. Podar, if you can unmute your mic.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now you can listen.
Yes, we can hear you, Ji.
Yeah. I am Suresh Kumar Podar, CMD Mayur Unicoaters Limited. We are manufacturing artificial PVC and PU leather cloths. We are supplying all over India, all the top automotive companies. We are supplying overseas also, all over the world we are supplying. Today in PU and PVC leather cloth, we are have a capability to produce any kind of PVC or PU leather cloth which is required for footwear industries. We are there. We can match any quality in the world you want. We are there to help you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Podar. I invite Mr. Javed Iqbal to kindly introduce himself. Mr. Javed Iqbal.
Javed Iqbal ji is online, but looks like we're having some connectivity issues with him.
Is Mr. Puran Davar online? I see.
Yes, I am online.
You will kindly introduce.
Thank you so much for this today's webinar on a very, very important issues of quality in the. My name is Puran. Manufacturers and exporters chamber to participate in this webinar today.
Nawazam, I think we lost you briefly. I'm not sure whether you have a good Wi-Fi connection.
Should I introduce again?
Okay, I think we got most of that, but we'll just come back to you with the specific questions. Is Mr. Javed Iqbal now here?
Yes,
Nair sir.
If you can introduce yourself briefly.
I am Javed Iqbal. My company name is Naz Export Private Limited, based in Kanpur, and also I am Regional Chairman Council for Leather Export.
Thank you, Iqbal sir. Mr. S.P. Yadav, Is he with us now?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. I am SP Yadav. I am Assistant Commissioner Industry DIs EPC Kanpur Nagar. Thank you for joining, sir.
Thank you, Yadav sir. So without much ado, we'll go straight into this, as so many of our participants have said, this topic of great relevance to us, which is quality and productivity. Now, we have a set of questions which we believe will deal with this topic in some detail. And I'm going to ask the question and ask specific panelists to give us their views on this. The first question is, what does quality and productivity mean for the sector, for the leather sector? And what are the interlinkages between quality and productivity? Can I ask Mr. Amin and Mr. Javed Iqbal to kindly comment on this? Mr. Amin first, sir.
Yeah, I mean, these, as I said, these are the most important factors, but unfortunately, our industry is lacking on productivity as well as the quality. As we all know, 95% of leather industry is in MSME sector, and there are many exporters who are even in the cottage sector. So exporters and the domestic producer in the cottage sector. We do have low wages, but our labor cost is high. There are many countries where the labor cost, is less, even their wages are higher. This is because our productivity is very low, and the productivity can be activated through the capacity modernization, technology upgradation, automation, skill development of our workers, reducing the wastage, and proper planning. But in fact, in our industry, many manufacturers do not know how to achieve a better productivity. For here, we definitely need a hand-holding, some guidance to them. I believe National Productivity Council, FDDI, CLRI, or any other organization should come forward, give support to the industry. The productivity has to be enhanced. Otherwise, it's really becoming very difficult to stand in the international market and compete with the cheap import. China, and particularly Vietnam, Vietnam in a very short time has got much higher production, much bigger export, just because their productivity is very good. And they are, in fact, growing only because of their cheap, not because of the cheap wages, because of the cheap labor cost, and that's they've been able to achieve because of the good productivity. Similarly, quality here is also a very serious question. Most of the, either in domestic or in export, check the quality on the final product. They do not have the system, quality system in the factories. So obviously checking the quality on the final products doesn't serve the purpose. There are many times they do the compromise because they can't make the short dispatches, or there are so many things. So there has to be a proper system in the factories where the quality can be controlled.
Can I just ask everybody to please mute their mics, except for the speakers?
And here also, as we have mostly the small companies, cottage industry, even in the medium scale factories, are not been able to have a proper quality systems. That is affecting the export, that is affecting the domestic market also, and the people are looking for the imported product. I think here also, if support is required, if training is required, I think there should be some audit system for the factories to have a better quality control. They should be graded like this. So this will encourage the factories to move forward, having a better quality control system. Recently, the Ministry of Industry has, for the quality control on the imported product, the system they have been introducing, that will definitely help the industry. this ISI mark will help the industry to move forward and having better quality product. So these both quality and productivity are definitely interlinked. If we have a better productivity, so we have a better planning, we have a better system, that the quality will be definitely going to be improved. And this will, both these systems, if we have proper in the factories, so I will definitely have a lot of scope in our industry, either it's for the domestic or for the export to grow. And I mean, these are very important topics, and I'm very happy that this being chosen for today's discussion. And I hope we will be able to find out some solutions, and that either in the industry and the government will take those suggestions and implement those, and we'll move forward. Thank you.
Amin sir, thank you very much. Javed Iqbal sir, as you said just before before our session started कि भी अगर अमीन साहब बैठे हैं तो और कुछ कहना.
अमीन साहब ने जब सब कुछ कह दिया, बच्चे छोड़ा ही नहीं कुछ बोलने के लिए और उनके सामने हम लोग की हिम्मत कहाँ कुछ बोलने की.
Anything you would like to add?
नहीं ठीक है, थैंक यू.
Quality and productivity.
अमीन साहब ने कहा काफी है, उतना ही काफी है.
तो मैं आपसे एक सवाल पूछूंगा सर.
जी.
अमीन साहब ने बिल्कुल सही फरमाया कि भाई our leather industry is mostly in the MSME sector. Is it not possible that, I mean, why should the MSME and quality stroke productivity be mutually exclusive? Why cannot we get quality and productivity within the MSME sector? What do you say to that, Iqbal sir?
आपकी बात हम समझ नहीं पाए भाई.
अमीन साहब ने बिल्कुल सही बोला कि हमारे लेदर इंडस्ट्री में मोस्ट ऑफ द यूनिट्स आर इन द एमएसएमई सेक्टर.
बिल्कुल सही,
वाकई सही है. बट जस्ट बिकॉज इट इज इन एमएसएमई सेक्टर, व्हाई कांट वी गेट क्वालिटी एंड प्रोडक्टिविटी विद इन द एमएसएमई सेक्टर? मैं आपको एक उदाहरण दूंगा. अगर आप फॉर एग्जांपल ताइवान जाओ, ताइवान में अनेक छोटे छोटे यूनिट्स हैं, सारे एमएसएमई सेक्टर के हैं, but you get very good quality and very good productivity there. Why can't we do the same in India?
हम लोग भी कर सकते हैं. इसके लिए हमें सरकार को आगे आना पड़ेगा और इंडस्ट्री भी उसके लिए तैयार है, काउंसिल भी तैयार है, तो क्यों नहीं कर सकते हैं?
I mean, सरकार को तो हर चीज में आना चाहिए सर, बट आप इंडस्ट्री की तरफ से हम क्या कर सकते हैं?
इंडस्ट्री तो हमेशा आगे के लिए सोचती है, अच्छे के लिए सोचती है.
Let me thank you, Iqbal sir. Let me ask this question to Mr. S.K. Podar. What are the key challenges concerning quality and productivity faced by our sector, and what are the global best practices in this concerning these challenges? How India can learn from that? Mr. Podar. Podar sir, आप अभी अपने आप को जरा अनम्यूट कर लीजिए प्लीज. यू आर स्टिल ऑन म्यूट. यू नीड टू अनम्यूट.
लाइट बढ़ाने से भी हो जाएगा ना मेरे साथ?
नो मिस्टर पोदार, यू आर स्टिल म्यूटेड.
वो जैसे कि लाइट बढ़ा दो और टर्न ऑन द लाइट. मेरे ख्याल से लाइट कम है.
Okay.
Control up to mute from there only.
Yes, Mr. Podar, you are now unmuted.
Now listening.
Yes, now we can hear you, sir.
You see, we are discussing about quality and productivity in MSME. You see, the quality is the mindset of the individual person. I mean, if I am running an industry, I should, as an owner, I should have a mindset of making good quality. Now, how to achieve good quality? To achieve good quality, you have to have certain systems, which is very important. Those systems has to be made, and we have to work on that very strictly. Now, as far as quality is concerned, in my opinion, government can do nothing. This is ourselves, those who are producing they have to know how to make the quality and how they can establish their quality and they can regular produce. That the system has to be made. Now, so far productivity is concerned, you have to train your worker properly, systematically, and then you should have a good machinery where you can have more production. So quality and productivity depends totally on the company which is producing. This is just a system. You have to make a proper system and you have to adhere to. Like when you produce anything, you have to have a system of controlling the raw material. You have to have a system of controlling your production, how to step by step. You at every step you need to check your product whether it is okay, so that finally when it goes, it should be all right. So I think it's not a very big thing. I have seen many companies, even I am working with artificial leather. I have also started with a small company. Now we are number one in India. How? You have to have R&D center, you have to have quality control system, you have to get the experts. Otherwise, whether it is MSME or whatever, until and unless you have a system and expert to guide you, you cannot meet the quality. You will always have a problem. And if you are not meeting quality, your cost automatically increases. Your productivity reduces. So this is just, you have to make a system and you have to adhere to that system. That's it. There is nothing very big thing into it. We have to just appoint certain consultant or somebody, some people who can guide you how you can control your quality. And then we have to work on that. That's all. In my opinion, controlling the quality is just a mindset of the owner. It's not a very difficult thing, because if I'm producing certain things, I know about my product. Where I make a mistake, that also I know. This is the only thing, how in a systematic way you just make your system so that there is no problem. And if the quality is controlled, the productivity will increase automatically. That's all.
Ullah, thank you very much for your very refreshing and very honest comments on this. I personally couldn't agree with you more that quality is a mindset, and I don't think a mindset is a prerogative of a size of industry. A micro industry, MSME sector industry, or a large sector industry, as long as you have that mindset, you can dedicate yourself to producing quality, and that's perhaps the most important point we should go through today. Mr. Puran Davar, I'll repeat the question which was asked.
Yes.
What are the key challenges concerning quality and productivity faced by the leather and footwear sector in India? And what are the global best practices in this sector as far as these challenges are concerned?
Mr. Nair, first of all, I would like to appreciate and also like to put the words of gratitude on the record, because choosing this most relevant topics today, the productivity and the quality. I absolutely agree with Mr. Podar. The quality is absolutely the mindset. Are you listening? I can reach you on? Hello?
Hear you very well. Please go ahead.
Yeah. I'm absolutely agree with Mr. Podar. The quality is absolutely the mindset of a person. There is nothing, no constraint of the even of the price. If the shoe is priced at $10, is $20, is $30. It's absolutely the quality. To me, is adopting the system. It's small to small problem. What is problem you face today in your, it's a very small problem you put into the system. This problem you should not face tomorrow. And tomorrow, what you problem you get, you put into the system, is not repeated tomorrow. Even after 15 days or 20 days, if you are addressing the small to small problem, that will be always on the auto mode. We should not ignore small to small problem. Even these 3-4 small problems makes always big. And the big issue with the Indian product is what we are blamed for, the Indian quality is not consistent. So the quality is absolutely the key issue, and the world's best practices. We have to adopt it as far as the government is.
हमने तो डरने छोड़ दिया 1 महीने पहले कोविड जब स्टार्ट हुआ ना उसके 1 महीने बाद ही डरना छोड़ दिया था.
So Davar, I think we lost the last part of what you were saying. Are you still there? Okay, I think we may have lost Mr. Davar's connection for some time, but I think the point which is getting across very clearly from both the panelists, Mr. Podar and Mr. Davar, is that quality is more a function of a particular attitude, or more a function of a particular way of thinking. It is very important for the owner of a company to put those quality, to first have that focus on quality, to ensure his team has it, and then focus on the detail, put the systems together, and productivity itself also requires, detailed systems to be put in place, training systems to be put in place, bring in foreign experts or bring in experts from perhaps other industries wherever required, and that will help to steer both quality and productivity. I move to the next question, which is, where does India lag on quality and productivity? And how is brand India perceived in the sector globally? And I invite Mr. N. Mohan, who has who's in a unique, he's the CEO of a well-known international brand, both marketing in India and sourcing from India, a very well-known footwear brand from the UK called Clarks. Mr. Mohan, over to you to give us a perspective on where India lags and how brand India is perceived globally. Mr. Mohan? You're on mute. You need to unmute yourself.
Sorry, Mr. Nair. I was on a call with. Can you hear me? Can you all hear? Sorry.
Yes, we can all hear you.
I was on call with my new, the Clarks global team, Mr. Giorgio Presca. So that's why I couldn't avoid his call. And Mr. Biani. So sorry. Can you repeat the question? I'm sorry about it, please.
The question was that where does India lag when it comes to quality and productivity? And how is India perceived in the sector?
Okay, I got the question yesterday. We had a chance to briefly discuss about it. I just want to share my experiences. Actually, I had worked about 12-13 years in Europe, and basically my job in the Tata Group was to source products from internationally, from China, Vietnam, and Thailand, and also India. So we were running that, from my impression at that point of time, this is about 10-12 years back. Like I used to spend about 20% of my time in China, whereas 80% of my time in India for a 20% business. Most of the issues had been trying to get the quality parameters ingrained, get the factories to look at the way, the product is perceived and everything. But that was 10-12 years back. But when you look at it now, and thereafter I ran businesses in India and manufacturing in India, the perception of the customer has changed. A lot it has changed about India. Especially in the last 2-3 years, the perception has changed. But even now, if you look at it, from a global perspective, I talk from the brand Clarks. Clarks imports about 8% of the country's imports is Clarks today. In the last 2-3 years, consistently, we have been doing about 7-8%. And plus, if I add what we buy from India for the local market, it would be about 8-9%. It's a sizable amount of footwear, about $150 million worth footwear we import from India. So India is a global, but Clarks out of total, what does that percentage mean? About 7 million pairs out of 60 million pairs they sell around the world. It's only about 10, 11%. It's not very big, and there is scope to improve more. Which are the areas where we can improve? From the quality perspective, India is always looked at as a men's footwear bastion. India, men's leather footwear. That's what India is known for. It's not that we can't make synthetic footwear, which is a large chunk, because let me give you some numbers. 84% of the footwear sold internationally or non-leather footwear, right? I'm talking in terms of, not in terms of value, in terms of pairages. Can India not make it? India definitely can make it, but we need to create an ecosystem. We need to create an ecosystem around it. So improve that image of just being a men's footwear, supplier. There are women's footwear, there are athleisure footwear. There are so many categories which we can really, get into in India. So that's something, which we need to kind of improve our image from the perception, get away of just a men's footwear supplier. That will happen only when we encourage a lot of people. And then we spoke a lot about the quality. Okay. And in the past, we used to always say chalta hai attitude. India has a chalta attitude. This is okay. But I know, like, quality is something, as someone mentioned it varies from company to company. In the companies which, like yesterday we were discussing, where I was involved in, what I say is anything and everything has to be measured. If you measure it against a benchmark, then you'll be able to, like, for example, we had a discussion with Mr. Sriram the other day, very nice discussion. Like, for example, many of the factories, many of the export-oriented factories have that kind of, that concept of such a time. Some people have invested in such a timelines to measure the standard operating minutes and benchmark it and productivity and so on and so forth. But in domestic, when I look at the factories which are supplying to the domestic industry, we need to bring about that kind of a input to them and that kind of awareness into them. It's not that, like MSME or SME or something like that someone mentioned. It doesn't, like you only mentioned, Mr. Gautam Nair. In Taiwan, even the small companies, which are, they all have that quality mindset. We need to create a mindset. Like, for example, the QCO is the first step forward to get some kind of awareness among the people. And we need to facilitate how do we implement it properly without any disruption in business. And that's what, people welcome this kind of moves. And we need to kind of, these are some of the things which will enhance the image. So as a country, we're taking steps to make sure the overall quality level improves. The second comes the productivity. Since India is always, we always sold as a cheap labor producing country. Our kind of cost of production is about 65 US cents an hour, compared to China, which is at $2.40 an hour. China also started this way. I had tremendous experience of working in China in the late 80s and early 90s. I used to source a lot of products from China. They also had this mindset, but slowly they kind of they kind of made sure the entrepreneur believe, look, with the same amount of people, you can produce much more, which will improve your profitability, your bottom line. Everything, if you can bring that kind of an awareness around it, how your bottom line can improve by making these people produce little more, by improving the productivity. Today, to answer your question, India is at about 60 to 70% of European productivity. That's what I would say. But there is a lot of scope to improvement. One is to keep on saying that we are not good. Second is saying that, look, how we can kind of take this whole thing forward. This is very, very critical. And I'm sure, like we will be able to, with the collective effort of the industry and the government, and also the institutions like CLRI and all, we'll be able to bring that kind of awareness, quality awareness in the market. That's what I would like to say. Thank you.
Mr. Mohan, I have a very quick question for you before we move on. You said that India is 60 to 70% of European productivity in footwear.
Yeah.
Now that, somebody can argue it may not be a fair comparison because European industry may be much more automated than the Indian industry is.
No,
India compared with countries like
I want to
come to productivity.
Okay, I want to kind of give you one example. I used to run a company which had production in Portugal and production in India. We had bought that company. I was the chairman of the company. And we had a similar production, same products, which is produced with 65 people in India to produce, say, 800 pairs. In Portugal, we have been able to do with 18 people to get an output of the similar, all things being equal. The construction is same. I'm talking about the lasting productivity in Portugal. So I'm only saying that, that is one. Suppose, if I had to compare it with Vietnam, thanks to this Taiwanese influence, are much more productive than India. Because I'll tell you, many of us lose production because of the not having a proper ecosystem supporting us. Like I was giving an example in one of the factories which I used to run in central India. For 10 years, I did that women empowerment thing. But if you look, our production is limited to the number of components I can get on a daily basis. If I can get, say, 1,800 pairs soles, I produce 1,800 pairs shoes. So I'm saying, like, we need to kind of create that ecosystem. Like we lose a lot of production because of this lack of components on time and other things, lack of proper planning. It's not so, it is the whole thing, I'm not saying just mere, if the components, all things being equal. I'm saying the whole thing need to improve if you want to improve the productivity. Vietnam is very well geared and Bangladesh is very well geared, but these are converter countries, minded, they don't have any components. Everything is packed and sent from China. They just convert it and ship it out. That's what I'm saying. So they are much better organized. That's what I'm saying.
Thank you.
Have I answered your question properly? I don't know.
Yes, you have. Thank you very much. Let me move to Mr. S.P. Yadav and Mr. Sriram, specifically on the state of Indian standards in the leather sector or in the footwear sector in India. Where are we when it comes to quality standards? And how do our standards compare against international standards? Also, how can quality and productivity be increased or be leveraged in India to implement the next level of industrial development, Industry 4.0, or to promote exports, or to promote Atmanirbhar and substitute imports? What can we do insofar as standards are concerned? May I ask Mr. Sriram to first give us the benefit of his opinion on this?
Sure. Thank you.
May I please request Mr. Sridhar Kumar Kalra to please mute his mic? Yeah.
Can we ask everybody to please mute their mics? Mr. Kalra, Mr. Surinder Kumar Kalra, if you can kindly mute your mic.
Yeah, done. Thank you.
Fine. Okay. Let me first take the first part about the Indian standard versus the international standards. We are all aware that the Indian standards, the holder is the Bureau of Indian Standards, a part of the Ministry of Commerce. Now, the way in which we were developing the standards in the past was that there would be a group of industries, research organizations, and they would sit together and say this would be the minimum standard that a particular type of leather or footwear should achieve. And this standard used to be updated regularly. Now, there were two challenges. One is that the method of getting to that number, whether it was the way we want to look at it from India or whether we want to look at it in the eyes of the world. This is where the point of quality comes in. Now, you have achieved the quality based on the methods recommended by the Indian standards, but you get rejected when you export it or is being looked at it from another point of view. So what is now being done is that there is a rationalization that has happened. In most of the cases, the Indian standard is mirrored from the international standards, basically because the Indian Standards Organization is a part of the ISO committees. And so we have a say in the development of the ISO standard per se. Of course, there are the Europeans who have their own standards. The footwear worldwide, the SATRA standards is the most accepted version of it. But ultimately, these become the international standards. And today, because we are there in the ISO, IS standard mirrors the ISOs. So in that sense, I would say that the Indian standards are more or less becoming equivalent to the international standards. So that's an answer to the first part of your question. We fare equally with the international standards. But it is not just the standard that is a problem. The question here is, how do I apply the standard to my product? Now, if you take my example as an institution, before becoming the director of CLRI, I was for about 3 years in charge of the testing facility of CLRI. To be very frank, CLRI thought that we don't have to normalize ourselves against the rest of the world. We do it well, so whatever values we give is right. We are correct, is what the thought process that we had. So, but we did then go ahead and said, look, let us be a part of the NABL accreditation. Let us get accredited by a national body, which is an international recognition. So NABL being part of the international system, let us get ourselves an NABL accredited status quo. We worked for almost 2 years, did a lot of interlaboratory sampling, standardization, etc. And now the point here is that whatever now in my lab, we say as this is the value for a particular test, this value will now be more or less reproducible by others across the world. Therefore, the benchmarks is now reproducibility. And that is what we all have to set in, even in the laboratories that we are holding within our own organizations as well. Today morning in the Hindu, if you go back and look at it, there was this, the article, an introduction about Prime Minister having said something. And the occasion was that of the National Physical Laboratory in Delhi going through their 75 years. Now, if you go back and look at it, NPL standardizes everything from what is a meter to what is a gram against international bodies, and they hold the primary standards. Now, laboratories like us will have to calibrate ourselves against the NPL, and we in turn have to calibrate others so that wherever you go, the gram remains a gram, the meter remains the meter. So this is where the quality aspect comes in. So whatever, I agree with Mr. Podar about the quality control charts, quality control manuals, etc. that we have to hold. But we also need to be compared or benchmarked against standard systems to achieve the quality. Now, once we have the quality parameter in tone, then goes into the concepts of productivity.
Again, now, may I ask everybody to please mute their mics, non-speakers to mute their mics.
Shoaib Ahmed ji, may I please request you to mute your mic?
I think QCA should have the power hand in your this thing to mute everyone by yourself rather than requesting people to mute themselves. Anyway.
Better to control from there.
Yeah. So anyway, but now let me come to the second part of the story about import substitution and mitigation and those kind of things. See, my way of looking at it would be that once you have your quality concept in hand and you know how to achieve what is to be achieved, then automatically you may have things which you can have it India dependent itself. I'll just give you a small example. We were to test about 3 lakh pairs of footwear that was to be given by the government bodies to some schools, etc. And 70% of those products failed because the in-sock in it did not meet the requisite standards. Now, it is because of the procurement. So once we start looking into the quality control right from the raw material onwards till the final product, I think we would beat the game. I am very sure that India can produce things at the cost that you want and in the quality that you want, which will automatically substitute the imports. COVID is only a small scenario. I don't think we will have to be really worried about planning ourselves for COVID and then don't have a COVID at all in the future. I suppose these are all small things or shocks that we may see, and we should not be much worried about. But what we need to worry about is the imports, and I surely think once you have the quality in place, imports can be reduced. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sriram. Mr. Yadav, any points you would like to add to what Mr. Sriram has said, specifically on Mr. Shriram made clear that our Indian standards may be comparable to Western standards. My concern more is that how well have we implemented these standards in India? How well is industry responding to this level of standards? We do not achieve our objective if we have the standard, however good they may be, if industry is not complying with the standards. What is your comment, Mr. Yadav, on how well industry is complying with the standards?
सर मैं श्री राम जी से सहमत हूँ. जैसे कानपुर में सर छोटी छोटी यूनिट होती हैं, हमने काफी विजिट किया है, तो वहाँ देखा है कि जैसे टेस्टिंग लैब है, डिजाइनिंग डेवलपमेंट एंड ट्रेनिंग सेंटर है, और जो रॉ मटेरियल बैंक होता है, पैकेजिंग, लेबलिंग, बार कोडिंग आदि की बहुत समस्याएं रहती हैं, क्योंकि काफी छोटी छोटी यूनिट में इन सब चीजों की समस्याएं होती हैं. तो हमने यहाँ काफी प्रयास भी किया है एक एसपीवी बनाने के लिए, जिसके लिए स्टेट गवर्नमेंट 15 करोड़ तक उसका 90% शेयर करती है. तो हमने काफी इस प्रयास किया है. और जो हमारा जो मेन लो लिक्विडिटी वाला चल रहा था, उसके लिए भी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट ने, चाहे वो लेदर में, हमारा 1 डिस्ट्रिक्ट 1 प्रोडक्ट में लेदर ही है कानपुर का, तो लेदर के लिए चाहे वो कुछ भी डिजाइन के लिए या किसी के लिए भी हमारे पास अगर आते हैं, तो हम उनको लगभग अप्रोक्स 25% सब्सिडी उसका भी प्रावधान कर रखा है. बट जो मेजर इशू है सर वो एमएसएमई के लिए हैं, और मैं श्री राम जी की बात से पूरी तरह सहमत हूँ सर. इसके अलावा सर एक्सपोर्ट के लिए भी हम लोग अपनी तरफ से तो काफी प्रयास करते हैं. जैसे पहले सिंपल एमडीए चला करता था, लेकिन हमने उसके लिए लेदर के लिए ओडीओपी एमडीए स्टेट गवर्नमेंट ने स्टार्ट कर दिया है. कहीं अगर स्टॉल के लिए जाते हैं, कहीं एग्जीबिशन में जाते हैं, कहीं रिसर्च के लिए जाते हैं, तो उनके तमाम पैकेज थे जो उनके लिए 2 लाख रुपए तक की हमने सब्सिडी करवा रखी है. ओडीओपी एमडीए से लेदर सेक्टर के लिए कानपुर के लिए काफी बेनिफिट है. बट और इसमें फाइनेंस वाले में भी हमने करा रखा है. कॉमन फैसिलिटी सेंटर के लिए हम काफी प्रयास कर रहे हैं, और 1-2 ग्रुप भी सामने आए हैं, ताकि वो एसपीवी में 20 मेंबर की जरूरत है. तो जावेद इकबाल जी हैं, वो खुद ही सहमत हुए हैं, काफी लोगों ने इन्वेस्टमेंट किया है. तो इससे हम जो जहां पर एक क्लस्टर टाइप का या काफी यूनिट हैं, उन यूनिट के लिए हम इनमें जो अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर के जितने हमारे मापदंड हैं, हम उनको पूरा कर सकते हैं. बस थोड़ा सा दोनों मतलब सरकार की तरफ से भी हम साथ दे ही रहे हैं, बट इंडस्ट्री वालों को भी थोड़ा सा एक बृहद अप्रोच के साथ हमारे साथ जुड़ना चाहिए. उसमें हम पूर्ण सहयोग करेंगे.
यादव साहब, थैंक यू वेरी मच. मैं आपसे एक सवाल करूंगा.
जी सर.
आपने बिल्कुल सही कहा कि सरकार की तरफ से, चाहे यूपी की सरकार की बात कर रहे हैं, चाहे हम गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया की बात कर रहे हैं, जो भी वो प्रबंध कर सकते हैं एज अ फैसिलिटेटर वो कर रहे हैं. मगर जो पोदार साहब ने एक जो आई थिंक बहुत क्रिटिकल बात उन्होंने जो बोला था, दैट क्वालिटी इज अ माइंडसेट. तो ठीक है, आपने कॉमन फैसिलिटी सेंटर लगा लिया है ताकि जो टेस्टिंग वगैरह के प्रबंध जो माइक्रो और एमएससी सेक्टर को नहीं मिल रहा है, वो वहाँ सीएफसी में आप प्रोवाइड कर रहे हो. बट आपके हिसाब से ये माइंडसेट जो छोटे एंटरप्रेन्योर होते हैं, वो माइंडसेट है उनमें to make good quality? Mr. Yadav?
सर माइंडसेट भी सर हमें चेंज करना पड़ेगा, क्योंकि उनका जो माइंडसेट है उसको जरूर कंपलसरी है हमें चेंज करने के लिए. जैसे कानपुर में एनवायरमेंटल इशू वाला बहुत प्रॉब्लम थी, बट जब सब लोग मिले तो अलग से रमुईपुर में मेगा लेदर क्लस्टर की बात हुई, तो वो सब हम और वो मतलब इंडस्ट्री वाले दोनों लोग कोऑर्डिनेशन, बेस्ट कोऑर्डिनेशन के साथ काम करेंगे, तो माइंडसेट भी जरूर चेंज होगा सर.
चलिए, थैंक यू सर, थैंक यू. मिस्टर मोहन, यू वर सेइंग समथिंग?
To answer your question, for many of the export industries do have this kind of a mindset, but for the domestic industry, see, which is very big in India, like for example, out of 2.4 billion pairs we produce, only 100 million pairs we export. The rest are all consumed internally in India. So there we need to bring about a lot of mindset. BA is a great step forward. In fact, the other day also we were talking with where BA's gentleman was also there, and DPIIT people were also there. It's a great step forward, but the thing is, all the people are really scared on the implementation bit. That is where we need to kind of find a solution how we can handhold them to kind of develop that kind of mindset. Okay, it's a great step forward, but domestic industries need to kind of, if we have to improve the overall image of the country, we are talking about brand India. Brand India is not just the exporter, which is about 10% of our production. Brand India encompasses everything what we do in India. So that is what is very, very critical from everyone's perspective. There we need to find some kind of thought process we need to bring in, how we can kind of hold out these MSMEs or SMEs and how we can inculcate a quality culture. That's what I would like to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mohan. उधर से आप कुछ कह रहे थे?
क्योंकि फिर हमें पता रहे यहाँ पे स्पीकर
मतलब आपको अनम्यूट करना पड़ेगा.
एटलीस्ट स्पीकर को ना छेड़े, पार्टिसिपेंट्स को छेड़ दे रहे हैं म्यूट करने के लिए. नहीं इनके पास
मिस्टर पोदार अभी भी म्यूट हैं आप.
अनम्यूट कर दो इसको. करो.
Okay, we'll come back to this because we are running a little tight on time now.
Now I can speak.
बोलिए.
Can I speak now?
बोलिए सर.
You see, what I think, if we need to develop the quality in MSME, we should make a committee consisting of government and big players of footwear industry, and have a meeting regularly and find out the way how we can make them understand about the quality and how we can help MSME, that how they should move. There is nobody to tell them anything. They are doing whatever they want. Somebody has to train. And then second thing, those who are big industries, big manufacturers, they know every system and everything. Now, this has to go down to the downward stream. So, if we have a large, big companies, maybe 10, 50, 20, then people will come out from those companies and make a small companies, not MSME, but medium-sized companies, and they can make the, quality product. It is very important to have a committee with the government, with our people, and we have to brainstorm ourselves, sit down and brainstorm that how we can create a quality on MSME sector. This is very important. This is a learning, and this has to be done very sincerely. Otherwise, you see, we will keep on talking. Nothing is going to happen. Why? The quality is not happening. This is not a footwear is new thing. From last 60, 70 years, India is making. But comparatively, we are nowhere. Why? So this only giving subsidy or money or this thing, in my opinion, the things will not happen. We have to make committee. We have to move to MSMEs. We call the MSMEs. We make organize the meetings, call them, explain them, bring some, experts who can guide them that this is the way you should do. I think then only things can happen. This is my thinking.
Udar sir, thank you. In fact, that brings me directly to the next question. How can partnerships, both domestic and international partnerships, be leveraged? उस पे हम कैसे build कर सकते हैं?
मैं बताऊंगा आपको. Simple बात.
Let me ask Mr. Podar first and Mr. Mohan after that. कि जो आप अभी कह रहे थे कि भी big industry or medium industry should sit with the small industry people and work together. How can this be formalized in some kind of a partnership? क्या ख्याल है आपका?
आप मुझे पूछ रहे हैं?
आपसे पूछ रहे हैं.
देखिए, ये सारी चीजें हैं जो अपने को सबसे पहले आपको कमेटी बनानी पड़ेगी. उसमें there must be some people and you have to have experts also on that committee, and we have to call seminar and all that, and call all MSMEs regularly and explain them how to do, what not to do. जब तक हम उनको सिखाएंगे नहीं, वो कैसे समझेंगे? आप मुझे ये बताइए. It is very important to bring them in one place आज मान लीजिए आपने एक सेमिनार किया, 500 MSME को बुलाया, वहां पे सारे एक्सपर्ट रहे, वो सब बताएंगे, फिजिकली उनको दिखाएंगे, तो अपने आप समझ में आएगा। और उसके बाद हमको एक कोई ऐसा सिस्टम चाहिए, ऐसी कोई एजेंसी चाहिए जो कि क्वालिटी कंट्रोल बताए MSME को, कंट्रोल करनी है, मुझे सिस्टम बनाना है, मुझे मालूम नहीं है मैं कैसे सिस्टम बनाऊं। तो ऐसी कोई संस्था हो जहाँ पे ऐसी टीम अवेलेबल हो, then it can be done, and it can be definitely done. There is nothing big thing into it.
Thank you, Mr. Poddar. Mr. Mohan, any comment from your side on how we can leverage partnerships?
See, I tend to agree with what Mr. Podarji has said, but nevertheless, there are lot of brands are operating in India in exports, for example. Like, whenever some of the brands have got very strict ethical standards, very strict testing standards, and very strict quality standards. Many of them. I know I don't want to name them. Like, so one is to kind of look at the best practices of these brands, what they follow in the domestic, and create a kind of and involve them also in the process. Like, we could get these brands to come and kind of, select, maybe, it will be very difficult to get every MSME into to get region wise, form groups and kind of, involve them in the process. Just try to bring the awareness first, first to bring the awareness. That's one thing. The second is, the domestic market will not improve unless and until the retailers put their foot down and then demand those standards. This is another thing, which the retailers today, so that is another thing. We need to involve the big players, like, the companies, all the big, everyone knows the big footwear retailers in the country. We need to involve them and then kind of set up certain basic standards. Standards are available. It's not that standards, the implementation is the issue and bringing the awareness is the issue. It's not that standards are not there. I have been the QCOs twice, thrice I have read it. In fact, an RAI Retailer Association of India is kind of, seeking some request to DPIIT and all. I only made up all those notes and other things. The standards are there and they are mirrored with, like Mr. Sriram ji said, with the SATRA standards. It's not something, which cannot be implementable. The challenge is how you bring the awareness and how we kind of, implement it. This is the challenge what we have got. Mr. Podarji's suggestion is very, very good. And then I would kind of go a little further. There are many brands which are operating in India. Like I said, Clarks is one. There are Geox. There are so many international brands and retailers are operating in India. And perhaps, it will be good from the government side to kind of, approach them and then kind of tell them to, kind of guide, spare some people to kind of share the best practices and bring them, those kind of people in these conferences and I think, and try to bring in some kind of an awareness in the movement. And that's what I would like to submit to you. Thank you.
Mr. Mohan, can I, a lot of questions are coming up. We are going to open the floor for questions in about maybe 10 minutes from now. So may I request you to just hold on to your questions when we get the panelists to answer the specific issues, and then we'll be opening the floor up to everybody for their questions. Can I ask Mr. Puran Davar? Davarji, the issue of, जो अभी हम बात कर रहे थे with Mr. Poddar and Mr. Mohan, how can we form domestic or international partnerships to leverage productivity and quality in India?
See, everyone has to understand there can't be the two parameters. There can be only one parameters for the domestic as far as the exports are concerned. Entrepreneur must have to understand the quality has nothing to take, whether it's a micro, whether it's a medium, whether it is small or whether it's large. And when it's nothing to take with even with the price, it's a $10 or $15 or $20. It's not even concerned to the facilities available. It's absolutely the quality. When we talk of the quality, is the workmanship. It should be value to the money in terms of the our component wise, but we pay everyone the same. We pay for the Geox also the same price to the labor. We pay for even for the lower product also the same price. So how
ये क्या है लॉक पार्टिसिपेंट वो यहीं पे रहेगा ना पार्टिसिपेंट
compromise on the quality standards has to be.
मेरे ख्याल से यहीं पे रहेंगे चलिए बोले ना बोले तो आसाम आगे पीछे होता रहेगा जो हमारे स्पीकर हैं उनको अगर हम पार्टिसिपेंट्स नीचे आते रहेंगे.
Mr. Davar, there seems to be something wrong with your audio connection. We can't hear you very well.
For each and every product is the owners permit or is sold or the PUs or the quality hello, just forget my earphone and I'm traveling. Hello.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Yeah. So this is absolutely the key is absolutely the mindset parameter has to be the same for domestic as well as the exports and also an entrepreneur has to understand the productivity is always the key. The material price, raw material prices are global now. It's the same at everywhere in the world. What we sell the labor. If the labor is also, if we are not getting the productivity, that advantage also we lose. So हम लोगों को ये समझना है कि कैसे बेस्ट प्रैक्टिसेस अपना करके बेस्ट प्रोडक्टिविटी निकालना है और बेस्ट क्वालिटी बनाना है विद इन द कंस्ट्रेंट ऑफ द इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर व्हाट वी हैव. And as far as from the government is concerned, we only need the external infrastructure. We don't need any subsidy, anything, but government is rather proactive. They are providing the assistance for the quality management. They are providing the assistance for ISO 9000 certifications, various certifications. So I agree with the concern raised by Mr. Mohan for the domestic as well as the export. Why is the difference? And the mindset, but the key issue raised by Mr. Poddar. So absolutely, particularly for the young entrepreneurs, they need to understand they should not relate with the quality, with the price or the facilities available. It's absolutely the workmanship, labor, we pay the same for each and every product. So we have to get the right product, and we have to we can put in the right system, and we should not ignore small issues. Hello.
Thank you.
Hello.
Yeah. The final question which I would like to throw to all the panelists, and we will start with Mr. Iqbal and again Mr. Davar, is specifically what kind of support is expected from the government in addressing the challenges we have talked about in quality and productivity. Iqbal sir, आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे? Mr. Javed Iqbal sir.
So, sir, both the organizations, the quality, this QIS and also this Productivity Council has to now little bit play a proactive role in educating and making some quality parameters mandatory on not only on the final product, the consumer product, but right from each and every component. For each and every component, and our supply chain also have to understand. They have to provide the all the basic standards, all the BIS standards in each and every component what they are selling to us. Maybe it's not the direct consumer product, but we have to follow with our supply chain. This is also very, very important. And from the government, definitely we need the infrastructure, external infrastructural issues. Also, the compliance part should be real one window. We should all use our quality time only in the production and the quality, not in these. Although now lot of ease of doing business has been addressed, like faceless income tax or the GST issues. Definitely, we are moving forward through all those these issues, but still some more has to be done, particularly in the infrastructure side and also the liquidity side, and also social security of the entrepreneur is also is a key question.
Sir, thank you. Mr. Podar, आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे sir? What can the government do specifically to improve quality and productivity within industry? आपको unmute करना है अपने आप को. While Mr. Podar is unmuting himself, Mr. Mohan, any comments on your side on this? What intervention?
Yeah. Now I can.
Okay,
can I speak now?
Okay, yes, back to Mr. Podar.
You see, what we have discussed, there must be, from government side, there must be some kind of institute where how to teach the quality. It should be like an institution, like a college, where it should be taught to all MSMEs that how it should be done. And that has to be an international standard. And then what Mr. Mohan has said, that there cannot be a two separate quality for domestic and export. Today, if I am making something, if I make two type of quality standard, then my quality will go haywire. So you have to make the same standard for domestic as well as for the export. It is very important. And government का काम यही है कि कैसे क्वालिटी बनाई जाए, उसके लिए कैसा इंस्टीट्यूट बनाया जाए, इसके ऊपर फोकस करना पड़ेगा. उसके ऊपर फोकस किए बिना हम कैसे आगे बढ़ेंगे?
Thank you, Podar sir. Is Mr. Amin still on? Amin sir, if you are, may I request your comments on what support we need from either the central government or state government when it comes to quality and productivity?
Sir, Shubhendu, from here, with your permission, you can conclude, sir. Amitabh just dropped off. Yeah.
I was asking Mr. Amin. Okay, I'm not sure if Mr. Amin is there.
Sir, you're muted. Amin sir, you're muted.
Okay, Mr. Amin here.
Sorry.
Mr. Amin,
Yeah.
you can unmute, sir. Please go.
Yeah. As I said earlier, I mean, because
Is he here?
factories are in a small scale, cottage scale, they really do not know how to do a better productivity and how to have a better quality control system. So, usme, I mean, they need some guidance. So there has to be some. I mean, if you go to some experts, they are asking for high cost for give them the guidance how to improve the productivity. So if there are some institute who can really help, and there are some productivity norms also. In fact, we do not have a proper productivity norms. What should be? I mean, how many workers are required for how many pairs production? So that sort of norms are also required, and some institute who can guide them for the productivity. As well as I said, there has to be some institute which can give this certification for the quality system. This factory has a great quality system. The factory has a big great quality system. So that will encourage the factories to improve themselves. As we have the rating for the financial rating, there are certain agencies who do the financial rating. There has to be some agencies who do the quality rating. So this will definitely help. At the moment, because their products is selling, even the margins are lower, they don't damn care about it. They are producing and selling. But if they come to know that the better product, they can increase their margins also, I'm sure they will do that. But उनको सिखाना पड़ेगा, उनको बताना पड़ेगा, उनकी हेड होल्डिंग करनी पड़ेगी, और इसके लिए एक प्रॉपर कुछ इंस्टीट्यूट होने चाहिए रीजन वाइज, वो उनको गाइड कर सकें, उनकी डे टू डे प्रॉब्लम को कुछ हद तक सॉल्व कर सकें. एंड आई एम श्योर, जैसा आपने कहा कि ताइवान में स्मॉल स्केल्स में फैक्ट्रीज ऐसी हैं जिनके पास बहुत अच्छे सिस्टम्स है. आई एम श्योर इंडिया में भी हो जाएंगे, बट उनको थोड़ा सा सपोर्ट की जरूरत है.
Thank you, Amin sir. Mr. Mohan.
Sir, just to quickly add, I got some completely a different, like government can only bring the awareness, like this kind of seminars, another thing. The quality mindset need to be built by the entrepreneurs themselves. This is my very strong viewpoint, my personal viewpoint. And because, see, you can't put everything on the government. And like I shared before, the Chinese industries were also the same. But they, overnight, the government brought in systems and productivity. That one other thing which I want to have, like there are institutions like FTDI and CFTI. I want to kind of, like I have not gone through the syllabus and other thing. We could kind of have certain things included in that, because catch them young, kind of the people who are graduating, who are coming into the trade, they are aware about the, like for example, now how to standard operating minutes and those kind of things, done in a more this thing. And those curriculum need to be revisited, because I'm commenting without going through it. Please do, if it is already there, please pardon me for that. I'm saying like that's one thing. The second thing is, especially the footwear industry, perhaps, like the German way of education system could help. This is like you study for 6 months, then you go and work in a factory for 3-4 months. This is my another suggestion, maybe, that is something, because if this is a focus industry, we need to bring about something different to what other people are doing. So perhaps this could be of help. This is what my suggestion is. Thank you.
So shall I say something?
Thank you, Mr. Mohan. I'm sorry I was on mute there, but somebody wanted to say something. I couldn't quite track who it was.
Yeah, Rajiv Gupta.
Yes, Mr. Gupta, please.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks to provide me time, sir. Actually, the way we were discussing, we are discussing the quality and productivity, but I think हम कहीं miss कर रहे हैं customer voice को, customer का pressure जो है. Without there, हमारा कानपुर का या आगरा का leather industry का काफी नाम था जब हम बहुत सारे पहले quality के norms नहीं भी थे. So recently हमारे पास जो retailers हैं, बिकॉज वो बिग ब्रांड्स को हर सिटी में दे रहे हैं, बट फॉर द डोमेस्टिक मार्केट वी हैव टू प्रोवाइड सम एग्जीबिशन हॉल, सम दैट काइंड ऑफ थिंग, सो दैट कि जो एमएसएमई है वो उनको एक न्यू प्लेटफॉर्म मिले जहां पर वो अपने प्रोडक्ट को डिमोन्स्ट्रेट कर सकें. और क्वालिटी का जो प्रेशर होगा दैट शुड बी कम फ्रॉम द कस्टमर साइड, कि ऑटोमेटिकली दे कैन कंपेयर, दे कैन सी अदर सिटीज प्रोडक्ट, अदर्स इंडस्ट्रीज प्रोडक्ट in one area. So I think that will give them a lot of guidance or lot of education, rather than कि हम उनको एक छोटा सा उनको इंडिविजुअल लेवल पर उनको दें, बल्कि एग्जीबिशंस जो हुए वो डिफरेंट सिटीज में उनको दें ताकि वो प्लेटफॉर्म भी बने. और सेकंड थिंग इज दैट जो एसोसिएशन लेवल पर भी कुछ मैगजीन्स हैं, जो कुछ सर्कुलर्स हैं, वो भी कई रेगुलर नहीं है, जिनको मैंने देखा है, बहुत सारे लोगों से मैं इंटरेक्ट का अपॉर्चुनिटी मिला है, बट दे आर नॉट प्रोवाइडिंग सच ऑफ गाइडेंस और सब इस तरह की इंफॉर्मेशन की ताइवान में क्या हो रहा है या चाइना में क्या हो रहा है या जर्मनी में, जैसा मोहन सर ने स्पेसिफाई किया. सो वी कैन more strong our association, we can also provide them other platform जहां पर वो अपने प्रोडक्ट को डेमोन्स्ट्रेट भी करें और कंपेयर भी कर सकें. Yes sir, this is all about my submission.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta.
Thank you sir.
Kalra, Mr. Surinder Kalra, आप कुछ बोलने चाह रहे हैं सर, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, sir. What I have been hearing is almost everybody is talking about in fact, the topic of today is leather and footwear industry. Everybody is talking about the quality of footwear, and what about the quality of leather? Is it okay? We are talking about institutions to be set up to teach the SMEs how to make proper quality of shoes, we are not talking about the quality of the leather being used for manufacture and stitching of the shoes. We are not talking about the garments which are very much in demand in the foreign countries. Coats, hand gloves, caps, and other things made of leather. They are also, there is a big market for that. And we are a consultancy company and we provide a lot of consultancy for international trade and investment almost for 40 years now. There are certain avenues. If there are some good leather manufacturer companies, we have done a survey near Vijayawada. There are so many leather small manufacturers, and what they were not even having proper effluent treatment plants. Nothing was there. We set up a cooperative for them, and everything was so very well fine tuned. Every quality of leather was so good thereafter. It is not that they had to go to some institute and learn all these things. They have all their ancestral businesses coming up for the first, second, not even first, but third, fourth generation. And they know how to make the leather. Only thing was that there was no proper guidance on the spot. Hand holding has to be done and not in an institution so that they go back and do it. That could be for some young generation and some greenfield projects, not for those small scale industries which are already there. And those have to be taught there and then. The cooperatives, you see, we didn't have milk to drink when I was a young boy of 5 or 6 years old. It was the cooperative movement which brought in white revolution in India, and we start drinking milk now properly. It is that only the cooperative thing that everything will come up properly. If a big company has to buy some footwear from, they can have these ancillary units in the cooperative and then they can manufacture it like that. We have certain inquiries from overseas countries. You were talking about overseas collaborations. We have certain inquiries from overseas countries where the livestock is in abundance, but the leather and footwear industries are not at all growing there. If there are any companies who are interested, they can contact us and we can help them in setting up joint ventures overseas. We can get them funding and do the due diligence on their behalf.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, but let me open the.
I'll share my email ID.
Let me open the floor to the participants who may have some questions on the proceedings today, and I would request the questions be preferably focused to individual panelists, but the question must be focused on the issue of quality and productivity, and we should try and keep it within the scope of that. So open to the house, any particular question people would like to ask.
Sir, this is Anis Ahmed from Nasser Group, Chennai.
Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, we have been discussing in our association for quite some time to fix the productivity norms for shoes and other leather products. So why not we engage National Productivity Council to have a meeting with us and then set a norms for the basic stylings.
Mr. Ahmed, I'll just come back to you. May I request everybody to please put their mics on mute, because otherwise there's too much disturbance. Mr. Kalra, if you can put your mic on mute. Thank you.
So, am I clear or shall I repeat again?
No. Mr. Anis Ahmed's question was that can we request the NPC, the National Productivity Council, to design and implement some industrial engineering norms which specific industry members show quality or productivity can be measured and then improved. Is that correct, Mr. Ahmed?
Right, sir.
Anybody from the panelists would you like to address it to any particular member of the panel? May I ask Mr. Amin if he would like to answer that? That can we involve National Productivity Council in designing norms which could then be used by industry? Amin sir?
Yeah, I think yes, we should. This is really very important. We should have this, and probably National Productivity Council can do this. I
think that they already have all these norms. We just need to invite them. They are waiting for our invitations, and we generally never call. We don't have the time to call them and use them. Is there any representative from NPC? They can answer better.
I don't believe anybody from the National Productivity Council is here. But Amin sir, a question to you. NPC is the National Productivity Council. I don't know whether they have any domain expertise in footwear or in leather products or in accessories. So can their knowledge and experience be channelized into our industry?
No. Sir, I am Bhardwaj. Sorry. National Productivity Council. If I am allowed to speak.
There's Mr. Bharadwaj has joined in from NPC.
I am from NPC. If I am allowed to speak, sir.
Hear you. Yes, Mr. Bharadwaj, please go ahead.
Sir, thank you so much, sir. And very nice question. And definitely, sir, NPC can give contribution with regard to reviewing the current norms. The Footwear Design Development Institute, we can join with them and we can definitely contribute to this area, sir. And secondly, we also have international network with Vietnam and other countries through the similar NPCs in Vietnam, because we are connected through other NPOs through Asian Productivity Organization APO. So we can also bring in technical expertise from other countries. So, sir, NPC can definitely take up this issue, sir. Thank you.
Sir, one more question. Sorry to interrupt, sir. Can I speak?
Please go ahead.
Sir, it's not only related to footwear. I would like to do it for garments and small leather goods and as well as gloves, sir. Because for gloves, we have done to our factory long time back, 20 years back. Chennai team had come and they set up some norms, but it's all outdated now because a lot of automation has taken place and new technology has come up. So if they revisit again and then set up new norm, that will be really helpful for us to be more competitive and have a better quality.
Thank you so much, sir. We will be able to review and study existing norms, which you said outdated, and it may require some more studies in the concerned units to revise the norms. So we can submit a proposal to DPIIT and of course other related ministries if required to study the norms. It may require some study before we come up with revised norms, sir. So if we get mandate from the ministry, definitely we will do it, sir.
Bharadwaj, if I may request you to, on the chat group, if you can put your email ID, so Mr. Ahmed or anybody else can be in touch with you and then take this conversation further.
Putting just, sir, I'm putting it. Thank you. I'm putting it.
Thank you. So Mr. Ahmed.
Mr. Nair. Hello?
Yes, please go ahead.
Mr. Nair, I'm Dr. Manish Pandey with the Quality Council of India. If I may be allowed to do a quick intervention.
Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, thank you. Just for the participants and the esteemed members, that the Quality Council of India has been already in engagement with the CFLA to come up with a scheme that talks about the best practices to frame the scheme which will cater to the requirements not only to the domestic markets but also to the global markets. On top of it, we would have the accreditation as the binding, which will give us immediate acceptability in the 180 countries which we are a member of in the International Accreditation Forum system. So I would add to what my colleague in the NPC told. So we would sort of sit together. The first has already gone to CFLA with their comments on it. So we would work on it. We would include NPC as a part of our this initiative, and of course work on the recommendations as has been made by some of the esteemed panelists. So I thought I should bring it to the notice of you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Pandey. That could be very useful. I think, where such webinars play a very useful role is we find that there are so many already established sources which could be tapped to tapping in your knowledge or wisdom or experience. And there are so many users also featured out here. And these webinars help to connect those dots. And I hope we can take it to the next level. Mr. Podar, आप कुछ कहना चाहते थे? Again, Mr. Podar, you have to unmute yourself first. Mr. Podar, you are still muted. No, I think Mr. Podar is having some difficulty. Any other questions from the participants?
Now you can hear?
Yeah, yes, Mr. Podar. Yes, please go ahead.
देखिए, मैं बहुत सिंपल बात पूछना चाहता हूँ आप लोगों से, और जो गवर्नमेंट डिपार्टमेंट के लोग बैठे हैं उनसे भी मैं बात करना चाहता हूँ। आप मुझे बताइए, यूएसए में, यूके में, यूरोप में दुनिया भर की इंस्टीट्यूट है जिसमें कि हमारे बच्चे पढ़ने जाते हैं। इंस्टीट्यूट मीन्स आई एम टॉकिंग जनरल इंस्टीट्यूट, एंड दे मेक अ बिग कैरियर. Now I am saying why the government of India is not making a world standard footwear institute where the boys come and learn and understand how to move about it. They can be our future owners. You see, this has to be done very seriously, in my opinion, and it has to be world class, where you can physically see everything, that how the production is done, what is the importance and all those things. So if our children goes there, study, they have good environment, they will learn. Today, what we are exporting, not even a 10% of what China is doing. Why? Our labors are cheap. Now we have no problem. You can buy any kind of best machinery in the world for your productivity. The only thing is how to teach them. So until unless it comes from bottom, the things will not improve. अपने इधर उधर की सारी बातें करते हैं, ठीक है, सब है, लेकिन लॉन्ग टर्म स्टेटस बनाने के लिए हमें बहुत ढंग से और इंटरनेशनल स्टैंडर्ड से काम करना पड़ेगा. एंड गवर्नमेंट शुड इन्वेस्ट मनी. और जो भी गवर्नमेंट की संस्थाएं देखते हैं जहाँ पे कि फुटवेयर का ट्रेनिंग है, ये है, दैट्स नॉट एनी स्टैंडर्ड. You have to make a world-class standard so that people are, उनको इंटरेस्ट पैदा हो कि हाँ हमें जाके वहाँ सीखना है और फुटवेयर इंडस्ट्री में आगे काम करना है और फुटवेयर इंडस्ट्री बनानी है. ये लॉन्ग टर्म सस्टेनेबल होने के लिए ये करना सबसे ज्यादा जरूरी है, in my opinion.
Mr. Shriram, can I ask you to respond to Mr. Podar's very good question?
I would beg to differ, Mr. Podar, on this, in the sense that with respect to leather and footwear, India has the best of the world education systems. It is the mindset of the people that they want to get themselves educated abroad to be great. Today, irrespective of anything, 60% of the world leather industry is manned by people educated in India. And I can also vouch that with respect to footwear also, the best of the industries, I can name them also if you want, are recruiting from our own students. The coursework of Indian education systems is constantly updated, and what we teach them is what the best that the world can provide. I can also tell you that institutions like mine is the one which is going and educating the people who are teaching abroad. Therefore, I beg to totally differ with you on this. With respect to leather and footwear, I would vouch that India has the best of the systems.
No, but if we have a best of the systems, that why we are not able to reach to our target? Why we are not able to export?
Sir, do not compare education with reaching the target. Reaching the target is not because of you don't know the science of it. The technology in India is far, far superior than rest of the world. Indian leather industry has the best of the environmental protection systems, and we know the best of the quality leathers to make. It is not because of that. It is the question of consistency that is the issue, not because of education.
So that's what I'm saying. Technology is okay, but the system, consistency, that has to be.
Consistency is not what you educate. Consistency is what you derive when you are in a factory. And I don't think we have anything to do on that.
Mr. Shriram, let me jump in here. We were just talking about how webinars like this help to connect dots. That we may be ignorant about something which your institute is providing. You may be ignorant about something which industry requires. Perhaps a good starting point is for us is to have sessions with your institute. So I'm sure there'll be a lot we can learn. Perhaps we can provide, and many things you can tell us we can know is already happening in CLR.
Hello.
At least I think, Mr. Poddar, that will be one big step forward.
No, yeah, let's make a committee. That's why I have said. Let's make a committee with the government department or our people and sit down time to time and see what is the drawbacks which we can look forward.
Yeah, I think we will take that as at least one of the takeaways from today's session. That it will be good, firstly, to come to terms with what we already have in our country, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of learning for a lot of us with regard to that also. Any other questions which our participants have?
I have a question with Mr. Shriram, but we have definitely, I am also the part of the many interview committees, but the faculty is definitely a big problem for any institute in India. We have 13 FDDIs, we have the CFTI Agra, we have the CFTI Kanpur. Government is putting a lot of money in the machinery and lot of money in making another institute, spending 180 crores in Agra. But the faculty, we always find difficult.
This is attributed to the problem of higher education. Unfortunately, our leather and footwear students, especially with the BTech leather and the MTech leather, find immediate placements in the industry that they are not going for higher education, therefore they are not available for teaching purposes. That's a challenge which we are looking into, and I hope we will have enough numbers to meet the requirements of those institutes as well.
I may add that that's not a challenge only for the leather industry. That is a challenge which is faced by so many academic institutions in India.
But, so what we expect the better
Dawar Saab, sorry, your voice is not very clear.
What we expect, the better salaries for the CFTI and FDDI faculty? Mr. Shriram?
Sir, it's not the question of salary or anything. It's a question of that people want to go into academics as well. People have to understand that there is a future in academics. And if that is done, I think we have done our job. That culture is something which we have to bring in.
Mr. Nair, I again insist on the cluster education can be.
Sabaji, I'm sorry, your voice is
from the
breaking up.
Day one when the he is of 13 age of 7.
I'm sorry,
I'm not carrying this my earphone today.
I think Mr. Dawar has left the meeting. Hopefully, he will log back on. Any other questions from the participants here?
Sir, I would like to ask one question from here.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, BIS has issued one standard for derby shoes, and which says that these type of shoes are used by armed forces for marching purposes. Now, my question to BIS is whether it is applicable to all sorts of leather or not, or is it meant only for armed forces? And second question is, how do we convince the customs people that this is meant only for armed forces and not for the general office wear?
Is there anybody from BIS here today who can answer that question which is raised?
Hello. Yes, this is
Yes.
Preeti from BIS.
Yes, can you help answer that question just raised?
In the scope of derby shoes, if you will read it, then you will get that this standard prescribes the requirement and methods of sampling and tests for derby shoes made from leather with direct molded PU and rubber sole. Don't go with the forward of the standard. It is for the information purpose.
In fact, can I come in, Mr. Nair? See, I did a complete study to answer the derby shoes thing. I had gone through the QCOs, like the lady from BAS who just mentioned. The standards are very clear, and then if you go through the QCO in detail, it talks about a leather shoe which is molded, direct injected PU. This thing, and then it also clarifies the usage purpose. So, only thing is, what we have been we had another meeting the other day with DPIIT as well as with BIS. What we are saying is, how we can make it so simple for everybody to, like this gentleman asked, and I also had the same thing in my mind before I went into the BS. What is it we can do to ease the whole understanding? The interpretation we should not leave for anybody's judgment. We should be very clear, and that's something which we agreed on the other day, that there will be a small group of people who will sit across and then clarify this so that the implementation becomes easier. That's what I would like to answer this gentleman who just raised this question. Thank you. Sorry for coming in between.
Mr. Dhruv, I hope your question is answered. Any other questions?
I would like just like to add one more question to my previous one. The lady from BIS just informed that we should not go by the forward which is written in this.
Right.
So that means that because in the forward it is written that it is to be used by armed forces. So we should ignore that specific line and concentrate only on the scope which is mentioned in the standard.
Would BIS like to answer that?
Mr. Dhruv, see, what has happened is, in the past, the forward was written because of the person who requested for the standard. So in all possibilities, it was the armed forces which requested for such a standard. Therefore, the forward had the armed forces wordings and all those things there. So essentially, we have to go by the scope of the standard and move forward. That is the issue. So the forward has it's like a thanksgiving to who requested for the standard. So don't pay too much of attention to the forward.
But Mr. I think the problem which Mr. Dhruv is facing is that if he is importing these shoes, then perhaps customs in India is asking him to prove that it's for the armed forces. Dhruv, did I get that right?
Yes. Primarily that is the problem, and apart from that, the scope says direct molded. So what will happen in case it is stitched? It is not direct molded, it is stitched. How do we convince the custom people?
Would the BIS like to comment on that?
For this derby shoes, the scope of whatever the product is covered in the scope, that only goes for the export or import purpose. The scope is very clear that it is for the direct molded PU rubber sole.
And any shoe that is stitched is not covered?
No, it is not covered. Whatever is there in the scope, that only will be covered.
So can we get a clarification on that front, because it is very difficult to convince the people in the customs?
Okay, sir, you send us the mail on chd@bis.gov.in. Okay, then we will send you the reply for that.
Yes, ma'am. And if you may allow, I have a similar question for sports shoes. Now, the standard for sports shoes says that this standard is meant for shoes meant for sporting activities. Now, there are hundreds of shoes which look like sports shoes but are not actually meant for sporting activities. They are casual shoes. So, are they covered or not?
Sir, for that standard also, whatever is written in the scope, that only will be covered.
Sorry to come in that scope, they have said low performance, medium performance, high performance sports shoes. That means it is restricted to those performance sports shoes only, not for athleisure category, which looks like a sports shoe. It's not really used for playing a sport. That's a clarification the gentleman wants to have.
My recommendation here is that we can have something like a frequently asked question by the industry colleagues, and the same can be put by DPIIT or BIS on its website wherever the notifications are published, in a similar way how BIS compulsory registration scheme have done that, and those FAQs have kind of been very helpful in reducing these kind of ambiguities.
So, Mr. Dhruv, can I suggest that you put that in a form of a question and mail it to BIS so that they can get back to you on that, on both the issues which you raised? Okay. Can I also ask the participants any other questions with respect to what the proceedings today in terms of anything you'd like to ask specific panelists?
So this is Kaveri from QCI. There's a question in the chat which reads, safety and quality certification is quite high for small scale companies. For a small company, it is difficult to maintain the cost of product compared to the previous cost. How can the government support such companies?
Sir, this is Rudri from QCI.
Yes, Rudri.
We have also had a couple of feedback or other questions that we were hoping that we could get some answers to. One being that there was discussion today around Vietnam, around Bangladesh, and how they have been able to crack the code in the area of quality and productivity, in keeping costs low and still maintaining quality and productivity. So that answers the what of the equation. Now, how do we reach there? That is something that our participants are curious to know. And also, how do we build capacity of our industries across the spectrum, be it small, medium, or micro industries in the leather and footwear sector, in order to get there? So in terms of building capacity, and how do we really ensure that our are able to keep costs low and still reach the best practices that we have seen through today's sessions?
Rudri, again, your voice was kind of coming in and out, but if I heard you correctly, your question is that how can we learn from the experiences of countries like Vietnam, which have leveraged even small industry and got best practices implemented there? Is that the correct question?
Yes, sir. We're intending to understand the how we can improve. We have spoken today about what is to be done, in order to improve, but how can our industries improve in those directions, and how do we make it workable for small and micro industries, medium enterprises to really build capacity in order to reach that kind of quality or productivity, at the same time keeping costs low or competitive?
Anybody from our panelists who would like to comment on that? Yes, Mr. Podar, please go ahead, but you've got to unmute yourself first. Mr. Podar, you're still muted.
Now it's okay?
Yes, please go ahead.
You see, what I feel that we should take few people from MSMEs and take them to Vietnam or whatever countries we are talking in. And if we can arrange some visit to those manufacturing facilities where they can go and see how the things are happening. Or we can call some people from this footwear industry from Vietnam or these places, if they can tell us something to our guys. Otherwise, how we will know and who will explain?
You know, Rudri, let me build on what Mr. Podar is saying and also take the advantage of Mr. Mohan's presence out here, that why can't we rope in the big brands like Mr. Mohan, like Clarks, and they can call it, whether they call it part of the CSR or in whatever way, if government and industry can request and involve some of the big brands to do to the leather industry or to the footwear industry what, say, Maruti Suzuki did 25 years ago to the car industry, by aiding in the creating an ecosystem, by aiding in creating best practices, because they have got fantastic knowledge and awareness of best practices, and they can do it as a service to the country they are sourcing from and the country they are marketing in. They would be, and after that, again, to build on Mr. Podar's example, we could take a selected group of small, medium-sized manufacturers, perhaps to Clark's factories, maybe rope in other brands also. They can perhaps see a Nike factory making sports shoes. They can see a Clark's factory making, say, formal shoes or whatever. Learn from that and then involve the big brands in actually implementing some of these practices in India. Mr. Mohan, is that?
No. See, when I said no. Yeah, when I said before, like involving of the brands which are operating in India and other thing, what I had is something like what you just articulated. That's what I had in mind. Like many brands, it's like for example, how we work in our factory. It takes us about 6 months to kind of upload a factory in our system. We first check about the ethical work practices. It's all about people, majors, and all those kind of things. We audit them completely, and also, we try to bring in some of the best practices to the factory with which we work. In terms of, we encourage people to create labs, we encourage people to invest in SATA timelines, we encourage people in kind of following all the REACH regulations, all those things, someone spoke about. So we could kind of bring about those best practices like that. There could be other brands also. From our perspective, we can ask some experts to come in. That's not a problem, and kind of share our knowledge. That's absolutely not an issue, and we would kind of do that. But nevertheless, like to add on what Mr. Podar said and what you just said, the first step is to bring in awareness in the domestic industry along with such brands, so that we need to build some kind of an enthusiasm and aspiration to change that mindset. If the mindsets are not changed, it's not going to work. And thereafter, yes, we can take people always to Vietnam and other places. We could engage with the Vietnamese footwear industry, and which is very, very, we got a Mr. is the guy who's got very, very knowledgeable person like that. We can kind of have those kind of knowledge transfers that will help to create the thing, and more so definitely the brands who are the big brands operating in India should come forward. And I can talk from Clark's perspective. Definitely, we could have some people coming over. Whenever they come to an India visit, we can combine that visit with a small talk and talk about the best practices, talk about what we are doing in our various factories. It may not be just leather footwear. It's applicable for all footwear, whether it's synthetic and everything. From that perspective, we can kind of, share the knowledge. And it's a great idea, I would say. Thank you.
That could be very useful. One of the questions, I'm not sure if it is answered properly, which somebody had raised from, particularly relevant to the smaller industry. The safety and quality certification is very high for small scale industries. For a small industry, it's difficult to maintain the cost of product. How can government support such companies? Mr. Joshi, आप जरा कुछ सलाह देंगे हमें that in what way government can help in, particularly for the small sector, in improving their facilities or giving them some support?
Sir, we have a scheme of IDLS, Integrated Development of Leather Sector, under which 30% subsidy is granted to MSME companies for purchase of new machines. So under that, we are providing a lot of assistance to the MSME sector companies, and every month its meeting is held. A portal has been developed by DPIIT, which is managed by FDDI, and the tannery companies can apply to CLRI and other to FDDI. So we provide assistance for creating, setting up of new units and modernization and upgradation and third criteria. So they can take
Joshi sir, is this facility available for manufacturers only or for laboratories also?
No, this is for manufacturers only.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
Sir, this is Manish. If you may allow me on the certification part. Hello.
Please go ahead, Dr. Pandey.
Yeah, okay. So in the terms when you talk about quality or safety certifications, usually there is a now well-established standard of group certification or cluster certifications, where if the practices are uniform in terms of certain clauses of the scheme, the entire cluster could be awarded a certificate having an annexure which would sort of list all the companies in that cluster who have been complying to that. So it saves a lot of cost of compliance and also cost of certification. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Manish. Mr. Chaduvade, we've come to the end of our session. So, if there
Sir, can I come in at this moment, sir? I am Ajay Lal from Chemical Department from BIS.
Please go ahead.
I just wanted to, the gentleman had asked two questions, one about the sports footwear and other about derby shoes. So I would just like to clarify, sir, that in the sports footwear shoes that we have, standard that we have 5844, if you go through the standard, sir, it says in the design part that the footwear is designed and categorized as low performance, and in bracket it is written as casuals. So it is very well mentioned there that casuals are covered under this. So it is basically just see the properties of the product. Because we have given what is the upper, what is the midsole, what is the lower part. So all that is given. So it is better to see that part and then come to a conclusion whether the product is covered under this or not. And as regard to the derby shoes, sir, the comment that was there, we have written in the forward that derby shoes are used by armed forces, police forces for daily wear and for marching purposes. It's just for the information that where is derby shoes used. It does not qualify that this is made only for them, or it prohibits other people from using this. So it's just for the information. We try to give as much information as possible in the forward. But the actual scope of the standard is always given in the scope part, that what does this standard apply to. So for seeing the from the perspective of the application of the product, it is always the scope which has to be seen. And the forward is just for the information. It says that it is also used. It says it is occupational footwear for daily use also. If you see the second line, it says it is occupational footwear for daily use. So that means it can be used by other people also. This is all I wanted to say, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Sriram?
Chairman, Ajaylal, see, you have a consultancy program before gazetting the Bureau of Indian Standard norms. Unfortunately, our industry do not know that you people are opening up the consultancy window, public consultancy window. I suppose we should create more awareness on that part so that the industry would have an idea before we gazette the standard. And all these things can be looked into at that stage, and we get the industrial acceptance to the standard before it is gazetted. So I think this should spend some time in ensuring that the industrial bodies and industries have a look at the standard before finalizing it. I think we should be little bit more proactive on that component. Being developed, so the standard, when it is being developed, it is sent to all the committee members. It is also sent for wide circulation. It is sent to the industry associations for their comments. So that is the portion at which you can say the comments of the industries are welcome. And once the standard is finalized by the committee, then gazetting is only you can say a physical process. No, I am saying that we need to do a little bit of advertising on that component. What is happening is that when we send it to the industrial association, possibly just the secretary of the association or somebody is seeing it and just sending it back to you, or no comment is being made and we take it as accepted. We need to do a little bit of advertising that this option is there for our industries to have a look at it.
I would also say, Mr. Sriram, that the responsibility should also be with those industry associations to take it that much more seriously and distribute it amongst their members, because the members are going to be affected by, if there is a improper understanding of this. But look, I think we have come to the end of a very interesting 2-hour session, and I thank DPIIT and QCI for organizing something as valuable as this. Thank you, Mr. Joshi, for spending your valuable time in guiding us on so many facilities which government is currently offering. Thank you very much to the panelists who generously gave of their time from different parts of India and in fact of the world. And thank you again to the participants. I hope you gained something out of this session, and I hope QCI and government and DPIIT will take this as an indicator that more such webinars should be organized on focused subjects. Thank you all very much. Over to you, Mr. Chattopadhyay.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gautam sir. It was indeed, we are very grateful that we had you moderate this discussion, and thank you very much to all our panelists for their contributions. If we are to quickly summarize the webinar in terms of the opportunity and in terms of the way forward that lies in front of us, we are definitely taking back the message of greater collaboration and partnership within the industry from across the spectrum, so that the larger industry companies or larger industries could actually handhold the smaller industries in reviving the leather sector in India, in helping with their experience of matching the international standards, in really bringing in those processes, the frugality of them while keeping that intact. To bring that into the Indian ecosystem, we will need the support of the larger players as well. We are looking at greater support in terms of research and development in the leather sector. There is also a need for a greater clarity and transparency with respect to standardization that matches the international standards, so that our products become competitive within the domestic market and also in the export markets. And if that is possible through any way such as and supported by internationally recognized certification, then that would even be better. So we would take these messages back, and on the 2nd of March, we would be releasing a compendium of all the recommendations that come in from across the webinars. So we also take this opportunity to welcome each one of you in that closing ceremony, where the compendium of recommendations would be launched, and your discussion would definitely find a place in it. Thank you very much for your time, your support, and for giving Udyog Manthan the shape that it has gotten in these last 2 days. Thank you so much.
Thanks to all.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you very much, Joshi ji.
You are most
Thank
welcome.
you, everyone.
You are most
We'll
welcome.
now close this session henceforth. Thank you.
Thanks.